Welcome to Jung Love, where we generate dream interpretations, answer questions, and generally horse around for the benefit of our subscriber community.
Who we appreciate.
Who we very much appreciate. Today we're going to be answering a question, and here we go. I'm reading your book, Dreamwise, which is marvelous, by the way, and I came across the passage where you say dreams don't have superior knowledge, but different knowledge. I'd been thinking that the whole time while reading, and this passage came to me with relief and clarity. My question is, has there ever been a time in your life when a dream or series of dreams seemed to be telling you one thing, but you decided to go against it regardless? If so, what was the result? Is it always safe to assume that dreams are acting in your best interest, or is there a possibility that, like an autoimmune disease causes a person's body to attack itself, your psyche can be self-destructive and deceitful? How do we know when to trust dreams?
Well, first of all, thank you for reading our book. There's gosh, I'm having like my neurons are firing in response to this question. So first of all, I think this issue of like dreams and truth, like in some sense, dreams always tell the truth, but it's kind of like which truth, which I think we'll get into in a minute.
Right.
But and I believe there may be a quote, like a pull quote somewhere in the book. I think it's by Fellini, where he talks about dreams telling the truth. It's a great quote. Anyway, so some of the themes I hear is like, how do we, first of all, I think there's this really interesting question of can the psyche be self-destructive, which actually would make a great podcast topic. But then I think there's also this question of like, how do we, what is the relationship we can or should have with, I want to say like the perspective we receive from dreams?
So another way of framing that, which I'm aligned with you on, is that we have a dream, and maybe the dream involves images which we recognize from our day-to-day life. There's always a seduction to literalize the dream. So one lens would be, the naturalistic view. If this were to happen in real life, what might that mean to me? But more often, we're looking at dreams from a symbolic attitude, which is that the images, the sequence of images, the feelings are not literal, but actually are translated into a much broader lens, and the dreams in service to maturing the personality. And in that regard, I don't know whether dreams are for or against a conscious ego decision, but are often commenting on the traits, qualities of the ego, and particularly if there is something that the unconscious knows about you, less about the situation, knows about you, which you're not figuring in or holding in consciousness.
Right. So I'm thinking of an example that maybe we can work our way around. It's an example we give in the book, and it's, I think it's in the collected works, and it's that man who had started off kind of as a peasant and risen up to be a businessman, and he had this dream that he was running to catch a train, and he sees the train speeding up as it goes around a curve, and he knows that if the conductor doesn't put the brakes on, the caboose is going to go off the rails, and then it happens. And Jung interprets that as a kind of warning. And of course, like we do have warning dreams. So if we have a dream like that, Joseph, I mean, I love what you said about what the unconscious is bringing forward, something maybe that about us that we're either not aware of or we're not including into the equation, right? So just framing it like that. Deb, I know you were going to say something.
Well, I think it raises the whole question, too, of things like nightmares or, and as you're saying, Lisa, warning dreams. And we wake up and we go, oh, my gosh, that's not right. That was terrible. But the question is, just as the dream ego often feels, awful, bad, attacked, etc. in the dream, we wake up and our waking ego goes, that was awful. Why would the dream maker send me such a terrible dream? These are awful images. This was a nightmare. Versus what is a truth or a facet of truth that the dream maker is presenting so that hopefully the waking ego can consider it. And just as you were saying, Joseph, consider it symbolically.
Hmm.
So in the dream you were citing, where the man has a dream of this train and it does go off the rails, rather than just say that was awful, I'm going to banish this from thought, of take a minute, think about it. What is it trying to tell you? And consider, where that occurs, if it occurs, how it occurs in your waking life. It's not the whole truth, it's just a different truth.
And I think it's a slight adjustment to the attitude
Mhm.
rather than an instruction.
Yes, exactly.
And dreams can be prophetic because the unconscious is absorbing much more information than our waking personalities can juggle. So it may be that the unconscious is seeing a trending, factors coming together that are leading to some inevitable events. But those are very rare. So I think in general, it serves for most circumstances to see dreams symbolically, and there will be exceptions where you may be the kind of person that receives prophetic dreams. But I think it's more dangerous to treat dreams as prophetic generally than to treat dreams as symbolic generally.
I also want to pick up on the analogy to difficult or nightmare type dreams as analogous to an autoimmune disease. I think that's an analogy that doesn't quite really hold because our bodies have their faults and foibles, and an autoimmune disease is simply a physiological mistake rather than something psychic that is intentional and has a purpose. And difficult dreams are there to tell us something, and they're really not quite in the same part of the psyche, I think.
But I heard this questioner ask something a little different. Not necessarily is a nightmare like an autoimmune disorder, but say, and Joseph also, like, I'm going to push against what you're saying a little bit, because sometimes you have a dream and you're working with it symbolically, like, for example, the train dream.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so if I read it symbolically, it seems like there's a metaphor being worked here that says that maybe I'm going too fast, right? And so at that point, what happens if you go, well, I'm going to disregard that and go full steam ahead? And to your point, Deb, I mean, like, so I hear saying, like, could the psyche kind of give you bad advice? I mean, maybe it's telling you to slow down, and that's really not the right thing to do. And I think that's a far more difficult question in some way, because and I don't know that there's a totally clear answer to it. The one thing I'll say is that, again, the psyche, the dream maker is going to bring what's missing, not necessarily like the prophetic vision from on high. Here's
Right.
what you should do.
Yes.
And Deb, you made this point, and I think it's so important. Jung was very clear that it's the psyche who has to respond. So the dream maker's giving you some little bit of information. It's like you're the boss, and a trusted employee comes and says, "Hey, boss, you don't know what's going on, over here." And the boss can be like, "Whoa, I'm really glad I know that. That's really important information." But the boss may still say, "But we still have to do it this way," or something like that, right? So that's the ego in relationship with the unconscious. It has to use its discernment. And then I think the final thing I'll say, which I know is really true for me, is sometimes I get a dream, I'm thinking about it symbolically, and I really am not sure what Psyche is saying. I did a dream incubation once for a question I was holding. And the dream I got, it was a little fragment. It was not good, but it was such a fragment, and I really wasn't sure whether it applied to my question or not. And I did it. I did the thing. And did it work out? Not without some problems, but it worked out. And I would say, on balance, I'm glad I did it. It wasn't, massively destructive in any way. And I think it was something good in the world. So, the answer is you can't sort of lean into the dreams. Even when you're working with them symbolically, you can't assume that they have the right answer. Is
Yeah.
that fair, you think?
Yeah, I really like your analogy to the boss and the boss being consciousness, and an employee coming and saying, hey, look, there's a problem over here with et cetera, et cetera. And what does the boss do? The boss doesn't have to just say, oh, I take your word for it, and I'm going to go charging in there and tell those people what for. And neither does the boss, we hope, just say, oh my God, I'm not paying any attention to this disgruntled complainer.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of hearing from him. What we hope the boss does is to say, I am going to look into it. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to go talk to people. And then the boss has to decide what action, if any, to take. And that's the role of our waking consciousness, our waking ego. Look into it, check it out, consider it, and then decide. And Jung is very clear that in the final analysis, it's up to consciousness to understand and take whatever decisions or action may seem to be in order.
I also think that dreams are rarely giving us instructions. Become an accountant.
Yeah.
Don't become an accountant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a Ouija board. It rarely is addressing yes or no questions. So when we ask, how do we know when to trust dreams? Trust them in what regard?
Yeah.
Trust them to tell you whether you should turn right or left. Trust them to decide whether or not you're going to stay or leave your job. I mean, it may be that on rare occasion, something is that clear, but generally, you can trust it to be enlarging your personality.
Yes.
And you may notice that your choices shift because you have more information about yourself or not.
That's great, Joseph. I really like that. And just to build on it, just to go back, like what I find is that when I have a dream and I sense it's important and I really work with it, it takes me a while to get there. What happens when I once I have that click, like I said before, it shifts my attitude.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that I necessarily do something differently, although I might make a different choice. But just like you're saying, Joseph, because I now have a different attitude. I know something. So it's a little shift. It's just a little shift in one direction or another that helps you go, oh, I didn't see it that way. I didn't see it that way. Now that I see it that way, maybe I'll do the same thing I was going to do.
Right.
But maybe I'll be like, no, I'm going to do this.
And I don't know that the self is totally aligned with the ego's agendas. Should I invest in this business? The self may not care whether you invest in that business.
That's right.
So a lot of times when we say I should trust or don't trust means it was successful based on my ego's goals versus not successful or painful, which I wasn't figuring in. And I think all of us can say that the self does not avoid putting us in suffering circumstances when that is in service to our maturation.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us will say, oh, this was a terrible decision because now I'm suffering and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If we could change without suffering, my goodness, our growth would be exponential. But the truth is, for most of us, we need to feel the burn in order to change our attitudes or conceive of something in a way that we normally would find strange or distasteful.
That's great, Joseph. That's really true. So it's a very complex question. Thank you for asking it.